In the distant future, on a planet light years away from Earth, an elite group of young alien scholars gathered at the intergalactic University of Zethra. Among them were Vera, a swift-witted Zynthian, Jorath, a keen-eyed Keldar, and Zane, a tech-savvy Saran. They were studying the ancient history of various galactic civilizations, learning the delicate balance of power, peace, and war that spanned the stars. But one mystery had always puzzled them: why, despite their technological prowess and potential, humans had been banned from participating in the Grand Galactic Wars. Every time the subject came up, the instructors remained vague, offering only cryptic hints about Earth's dark past. It wasn't until a seemingly ordinary lecture on galactic treaties that the students stumbled upon the secret that had been hidden for centuries. The lecture was focused on the Galactic Concord, a treaty signed after the last Great War. It was designed to prevent any species from tipping the balance of power again, a balance that had been shattered by one race's unchecked aggression. The humans, it turned out, had played a pivotal role in the downfall of a great galactic empire, one that had stood for millennia. Intrigued, the students dug deeper, accessing restricted archives hidden in the university's vast databases. What they uncovered shocked them. Long ago, before the formation of the Galactic Concord, humans had been involved in a series of catastrophic battles, during which they deployed a new kind of weaponry that could alter not just the course of a war, but the very fabric of reality itself. The weapon was known as the Phase Breaker, an experimental device designed to manipulate the fundamental laws of space and time. In the heat of the conflict, humans had used it recklessly, destabilizing entire star systems and creating black holes in the wake of their blasts. Planets were torn apart, stars vanished, and entire civilizations were wiped out in an instant. The most devastating use of the Phase Breaker had been during the Battle of Zarin, where a human-led fleet triggered a chain reaction that collapsed a neighboring galaxy, sending ripples of destruction across countless systems. The damage was so immense that the war could not continue in its current form. The galaxy, along with its many species, was left in ruins. The survivors, the representatives of the galactic races, convened to form a new order, the Galactic Concord, and they unanimously agreed that no species could be trusted with such a dangerous weapon. As a result, humans were banned from participating in the galactic wars ever again. Their potential for creating unimaginable destruction was simply too great to ignore. But as the students dug further into the ancient records, they discovered something even more shocking. The humans, realizing the magnitude of their mistake, had taken steps to ensure that the Phase Breaker would never be used again. They have voluntarily dismantled their war machines, decommissioned their most advanced technologies, and isolated themselves from the rest of the galaxy, retreating to their homeworld in an effort to atone for the devastation they had caused. Yet, despite their repentance, the ban remained. The galactic races were wary of humanity's raw potential, fearing that one day, they might once again rise to power and unleash the Phase Breaker once more. Vera, Jorath, and Zane sat their day in stunned silence as they read through the final records, struggling to comprehend the magnitude of the humans' actions and the galaxy's decision to keep them excluded. They had always thought of humans as primitive, a young species with little understanding of the vast universe, but now they realized that humanity had once been at the center of one of the galaxy's most tragic chapters. As they left the archives, a sense of responsibility weighed heavily on their shoulders. The galaxy was on the brink of a new era, with old enemies beginning to stir and new conflicts on the horizon. They understood now more than ever why the humans had been banned from galactic war, but they also knew that the future was uncertain. The question lingered in their minds: would the humans remain forever isolated, or could they prove their worth once again and join the galactic community without the risk of repeating the horrors of their past? As they looked toward the stars, they realized the answers might lie in the choices humanity would make in the years to come, and they hoped, with all their hearts, that those choices would lead to peace, not war. The revelation had left Vera, Jorath, and Zane in a state of stunned contemplation. The truth about humanity's potential had turned their understanding of galactic history upside down. The students were now faced with an agonizing choice. Should they report their findings to the Galactic Council and risk reigniting a conflict that might be better left forgotten, or should they remain silent, letting humanity face its destiny alone? the trio convened in the university's deepest archives, seeking guidance in ancient texts and forbidden records. Vera was the first to speak, her voice steady but filled with uncertainty. "We've seen the truth, and now we know that the humans are not just dangerous. They might be the galaxy's only hope against the force that's coming, but we also know that the galactic races will never trust them again." Jorath, ever the pragmatist, crossed his arms. "We cannot ignore the possibility that the humans, even with their technology, might still be too unpredictable. Their history shows that they are capable of terrible destruction. What if they can control it again? What if this new threat, whatever it is, turns them into the very thing they once were?" Zane, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke up. "I think there's more at stake here than just power. The humans, as chaotic and flawed as they are, have shown something we haven't seen in other species: resilience. They learn it from their mistakes. Even if they did so slowly, what if they're the ones who can lead us out of the darkness?" Vera looked at him, her gaze heavy with doubt. "But do we trust them? Do we risk everything on their shoulders?" Before they could reach any conclusions, the unthinkable happened. Late one evening, an encrypted transmission was intercepted by the university's central communication hub. It was a distress signal that was so powerful, it could be detected across light years. The message, garbled and distorted, came from deep within the galactic core, a region long considered a dead zone for communication, but the message was clear enough the ancient force had a walk on. The signal was unmistakable, the force that the ancient galactic races had sealed away eons ago, a sentient, malevolent entity known only as the Eternus, had returned. The Eternus was a being of pure destruction, capable of tearing apart entire star systems with a mere thought. Its return had been feared for millennia, and now, the galaxy was defenseless. Vera, Jorath, and Zane knew that the galaxy would soon be plunged into chaos once more. The Eternus would not rest until it consumed everything in its path. The Galactic Council would never be able to unite the species in time to stop it. There was only one hope: humanity. The students knew that the humans had kept their phase-breaker technology hidden away, but now, they might have no choice but to use it once more. The phase-breaker, with all its destructive power, might be the only weapon capable of defeating the Eternus, but there was no way to know for sure if humanity had the strength, or the wisdom, to wield it responsibly. With no time to waste, the trio made a daring decision. They would return to Earth and plead with the humans. They would show them what they had discovered and offer a chance to redeem themselves in the eyes of the galaxy. But they couldn't do it alone if the humans were to take up arms once again. They would need the support of the alien races, and that would mean challenging the Galactic Council's decree. When they arrived back on Earth, the students found a planet on the brink. Tensions were high, and the strange disturbances they'd heard about were now becoming more frequent. Rumors of a strange energy force gathering in the outer rim of the galaxy were circulating among the humans. No one knew exactly what it was, but they all sensed something dark was coming. The students, now determined to uncover the truth, traveled to the highest levels of human governance. They met with the leaders of the world in secret, presenting the evidence they had uncovered: the Eternus return, the phase-breaker technology, and the ancient history of the galactic ban. The leaders, though cautious, listened to the students' plea. Humanity was divided. Some factions wanted to prepare for war, to take up the mantle of the phase-breaker and fight the Eternus. Others, however, feared that using such a weapon again would result in even greater destruction, leading to the same fate that had once nearly torn the galaxy apart. Days turned into weeks as the humans debated. The world was on the edge of collapse, and the students knew that they had to act quickly. The Eternus was drawing closer with every passing moment, and the galaxy was running out of time. In a final, desperate move, the alien students contacted the Galactic Council, sending a message urging them to reconsider their stance on humanity. They explained that the only way to defeat the Eternus was to allow the humans to participate in the upcoming war, to lend their technology and power to the fight. But there was a catch: the Council would have to lift the ban, and they would have to do it now. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session. The proposal was met with fierce resistance. Some races, still haunted by the memories of Earth's past destruction, were unwilling to trust humanity again. Others argued that the threat of the Eternus was too great to ignore, and the humans might be the only ones capable of defeating it. As the debate raged, the students watched in silence, knowing that the future of the galaxy hung in the balance. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, a vote was called. The council, torn by fear and hope, reached a decision. Humanity would be allowed to fight, but under one condition: they would be closely monitored. Their phasebreaker technology would be kept under strict supervision to ensure it wasn't used recklessly. If they could prove themselves capable of defending the galaxy without repeating their past mistakes, they would be accepted back into the fold of galactic civilization. It was a fragile agreement, but it was a start. The human race had been given a second chance. The students, relieved yet anxious, turned their gaze to Earth once more. They had done their part, but now the fate of the galaxy rested in the hands of the humans. Would they rise to the occasion, or would they repeat the very mistakes that had condemned them in the first place? The answer would come soon enough. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info. In the wake of the Galactic Council's historic vote, a tenuous alliance was forged. Humanity had been granted a second chance, but the conditions were strict. Earth's phasebreaker technology was to be placed under the supervision of a council of alien representatives. The threat of the Eternus loomed large, and there was no room for mistakes. Vera, Jorath, and Zane returned to the heart of the galaxy, their mission complete, but the weight of their decision hung over them. Humanity was once again a part of the galactic stage, but whether they could live up to the trust given to them remained uncertain. The students had seen the potential for both greatness and destruction in the humans, and now they had to hope that their past mistakes would not repeat. Back on Earth, humanity's leaders convened in a secret council to decide how to prepare for the coming war. The world had already been divided, torn between factions that still remembered the catastrophic events of the past and those that believed they could redeem themselves. But one thing was clear: they would need to unite. Humanity's brightest minds, once scattered across the globe in isolation, now came together to form the Earth Defense Coalition (EDC). They worked tirelessly, integrating their scientific advancements with alien technology. The phasebreaker, dormant for centuries, was reawakened, and its secrets were slowly uncovered. Yet, even as the weapon was reconstructed, questions of control loomed large. Could humanity wield such power again without succumbing to the temptation of destruction? Vera, Jorath, and Zane were part of the delegation sent to Earth to observe the rebuilding process. They had been granted a temporary position on the Earth Defense Council, tasked with ensuring that the phasebreaker was not misused. As they traveled to Earth's central huge, enormous, sprawling city of Solar, they could feel the tension in the air. Humanity's future was now irrevocably tied to the success of their mission. When they arrived, they were greeted by human leaders, each of whom had their own vision of how to handle the coming war. Among them was General Elena Van, a fierce and pragmatic leader of Earth's military forces. Elena had fought in the last war, the one where humanity had been pushed to the brink of extinction. She had witnessed firsthand the destructive potential of the phasebreaker. Unlike many of her peers, she was not eager to see its power unleashed again. "There is no going back," General Van said, her voice firm as she addressed the alien students. "We're already on edge. We can't afford to hesitate when the Eternus arrives, but we need a strategy, a way to use the phasebreaker without destroying everything we've worked to rebuild." The students, knowing the weight of this decision, could only nod. "We'll work together," Vera said, her voice calm yet filled with resolve. "But we must ensure that the phasebreaker is used only when absolutely necessary. It must not be the first choice." The tension on Earth grew as the days passed. The Eternus approach was undeniable. Strange cosmic disturbances were intensifying. The galaxy's inhabitants could feel the pull of its dark energy, as if the very fabric of reality was being distorted. Desperate whispers filled the galactic communications networks, and soon, the first contact with the Eternus came. A single fleet of black, jagged ships entered the galaxy's borders. They were silent, yet their presence radiated with a primal force that chilled even the bravest of hearts. The Earth Defense Coalition, now at full strength, prepared for the inevitable confrontation. With the phasebreaker ready, the world waited for the moment when it would be called into action. Weeks passed, and the situation worsened. The Eternus fleet grew, and it seemed like the entire galaxy was on the brink of war. The galaxy's leaders, still hesitant to fully trust humanity, began to doubt whether Earth could handle the responsibility it had been given. Some began to question if the human race could truly be trusted with the power of the Phasebreaker. As the students watched, they noticed the conflict brewing, not only between the galactic races but among humanity itself. There were factions within Earth's military and government, each with their own opinion on how to use the Phasebreaker. General Van was in favor of using the weapon if necessary, but she feared it might create more enemies than allies. Others believed that the weapon should be reserved for the final moment when there was no other hope. A dangerous debate ensued. Vera, Jorath, and Zane had seen enough of humanity's inner turmoil to know that they were not yet ready for the responsibility they had been handed. The stakes were high, and they feared that once the Phasebreaker was activated, there would be no turning back. Then, one fateful day, the Eternus made its move. The fleet arrived in full force, devastating entire systems with ease, its ships leaving trails of destruction wherever they went. The galactic races, unprepared and divided, struggled to mount any meaningful defense. The Eternus seemed unstoppable. In a moment of desperation, the Galactic Council called upon Earth for help. It was humanity's moment to prove itself. General Van stood before the Earth Defense Coalition, a determined look in her eyes. "This is it," she said. "The time to act has come. We cannot wait any longer. If we are to survive, the Phasebreaker must be deployed now." The decision was made. The Phasebreaker, under the strict supervision of the alien students and Earth's leaders, was prepared for use. As its core began to hum with terrifying energy, the students exchanged worried glances. They had been here before, and they knew the consequences of unleashing such power. Vera stepped forward, her voice resolute. "General Van, I trust you, but remember the moment you use this weapon, there will be no going back. It's not just about defeating the Eternus, it's about ensuring that the galaxy does not fall into chaos." Elena nodded, understanding the gravity of her decision. "We're ready. If the Eternus cannot be stopped with words, then we will make the first move." The Phasebreaker fired. The universe seemed to hold its breath as a massive burst of energy erupted from Earth's core. The ripples of its force were felt across galaxies. The Eternus fleet faltered, its ships disintegrating under the sheer magnitude of the blast. For a moment, it seemed as if the galaxy would be saved. But as the dust settled, a new threat emerged. The universe held its breath as the monstrous form of the Eternus emerged from the wreckage of its fleet. What had once been a collection of jagged, menacing ships now materialized into something far worse: a dark, formless entity of immense size and power. Its presence bent space itself, distorting light and sound, and its gaze could pierce even the deepest layers of reality. The battle for the galaxy had only just begun. On Earth, the Phasebreaker's energy core hummed with power, its destructive force unleashed upon the Eternus fleet. But the creature that now floated in the void was no ordinary foe. It was a being of pure, malevolent consciousness, older than time itself. The Phasebreaker had worked in part, weakening the fleet, but it had not destroyed the Eternus. Instead, it seemed to have drawn its attention. General Elena Van stood before the Earth Defense Coalition's war room, her face grin as she watched the holographic display of the Eternus. Its immense form stretched across several light years, its tendrils of dark energy reaching out like the claws of a dead god. "We've barely scratched the surface," General Van muttered. "If that thing gets any closer, we'll be obliterated before we can even blink." The students Vera, Jorath, and Zane stood off to the side, observing the growing panic in the room. The alliance between Earth and the galactic races had been fragile from the start, and now, with the Eternus' true form revealed, tensions were higher than ever. The Phasebreaker, despite its devastating power, might not be enough. "We need more time," Jorath said, voice tight with concern. "The Eternus can manipulate time itself, bending it to its will. It may have been hiding, waiting for this exact moment. If we cannot find a way to sever its connection to reality, we may never have another chance." Zane, his antennae twitching in nervous anticipation, was the first to speak up. "What if the Phasebreaker wasn't meant to defeat it entirely? What if we're just supposed to weaken it, to create an opening for something more?" Vera turned to them both, her brow furrowing. Something more. Like what? We don't even fully understand the Eternus. It's beyond any technology we have. The humans have something the galaxy doesn't, Zane continued, his voice thoughtful. They have an ability to adapt or think outside the box. What if the solution lies not in fighting it head-on, but in understanding it, in finding its weakness, its heart? The students knew what Zane was implying. Humanity, for all its flaws, had a unique gift ability to break conventional boundaries and create new paths when all seemed lost. It was this drive, this raw unpredictability, that had once led to the Eternus' banishment in the first place. Could it be the same quality that would lead to its downfall? Vera took a step forward. We need to convince the humans to focus on more than just brute force. They've already used the phasebreaker once. If it didn't destroy the Eternus outright, it may have simply been a stepping stone to something greater. We need to guide them. General Van looked up, her mind racing. And how do we do that? How do we stop something that can rewrite the very fabric of space-time? Jorath, who had been quiet, finally spoke. The Eternus is not just a physical entity, it's a force of pure thought, a collective consciousness that feeds off fear and chaos. The reason the phasebreaker didn't destroy it might be that it cannot be destroyed by force alone. It might only be weakened by the power of unity, by the collective will of a species that has overcome its darkest impulses. He glanced at Zane and Vera. Humans are the key to that unity. They've been given a second chance, and they need to realize that it's not about weapons, it's about working together, transcending their history of violence. That's what will stop the Eternus. General Van nodded slowly, realizing the depth of the challenge ahead. You're right, but how do we make them see it? The whole galaxy is watching, and Earth's leadership is already divided. The idea of unity through peace is not something that comes naturally, especially after the destruction they've caused. Vera's eyes gleamed with resolve. We start by leading by example. The galactic races need to put aside their own prejudices and fears. If we can show the humans that they're not alone, if we can create an alliance strong enough to fight the Eternus with the power of unity, we'll stand a chance, but it begins with them. Zane stepped up next, his voice growing more confident. Humanity doesn't need another weapon, they need a collective force, one that doesn't rely on the destructive power they've wielded in the past. They need to learn that the power of cooperation can be their greatest weapon, and the first step is to unite not just themselves, but the entire galaxy. The students knew that what they were proposing was dangerous. If humanity couldn't overcome their inherent distrust of the galaxy or the temptation to rely on the phasebreaker, all would be lost, but there was no other option. Back on Earth, the leaders of the Earth Defense Coalition were on the verge of making a final, irreversible decision. The phasebreaker was ready. Some factions advocated for its immediate use, believing that nothing but total destruction would suffice. But the voice of reason was gaining ground. General Van and her supporters argued that humanity's survival depended on unity, not devastation. In a rare, unprecedented move, General Van called for a global summit. Every major leader of Earth's nations, every faction of the military, and representatives from the galactic races were invited. The goal, to put aside centuries of distrust and rivalry and form a united front against the Eternus. As the summit convened, the students Vera, Jorath, and Zane stood beside them, helping to mediate. Vera spoke first, her voice steady. We have all seen what the Eternus is capable of. It is not a battle of technology, but of will. It feeds on our darkest instincts, our fears, our desires for destruction. If we are to defeat it, we must transcend those instincts. Jorath added, the phasebreaker is not a cure-all. It is a tool, nothing more. The true power lies in our unity. If the galaxy can unite, and if humanity can finally choose cooperation over conflict, we can push the Eternus back.